So with us now, we've got author and NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss and federal politics editor and senior reporter for the Center for Public Integrity, Dave Leventhal. Dave's out with a new piece, How Donald Trump Created a Permanent Presidential Campaign. Explain that for us, David.
Well, the president has had no fewer than 57 campaign events. These are not official events, but ones where he's effectively doing them in order to run for re-election or to help political allies. So when you add that all up and you juxtapose it to, or not even juxtapose it, but add it on to the golf time, to the executive time that Axios illustrated in some of its recent reporting, it raises a question of, well, if for every hour or every day that the president isn't being president of the United States, what is he doing? And it's all of these things put together.
Michael, of course, Republicans were complaining that Bill Clinton was doing the same thing, running ads all over the country in 1995. So this isn't something completely new. That said, Donald Trump does seem to enjoy only one aspect of his job, and that aspect of his job is holding these campaign rallies.
Yeah, that's right. And as you remember, Joe, those rallies began really just within a couple of weeks of the time he was elected in 2016. And the whole history of the presidency, as you know, what presidents do is they run in these campaigns, they win, those are divisive. The great presidents, what they do is once they become president, they realize that a big part of their job is to unify the country, do things to try to bring into the tent people who voted against them. And the other thing they do while they're president is to make unpopular decisions that may displease their base. And those are the two things that Donald Trump has not done and has made it clear he wasn't going to do from the beginning with that terrible inaugural address about carnage and all the rest of it. And I think what's going to happen is if Donald Trump leaves office, if he should be defeated next year or leave office, you know, under other circumstances, people will say that's not the way to be president. They'll want someone who does the opposite.
Hey, Dave, Nick Confessore here. So President Trump started to raise money almost as soon as he became president for his next bid for office, faster than any past president had before. He's had a lot of fundraisers and raised a lot of money. But I'm curious, how is he spending the money? The example from the 90s, obviously, is Clinton using soft money raised at his party committee to run ads bashing Republicans. How is Donald Trump using this early money, and is he gaining any kind of an advantage over the future Democratic nominee?
So it's remarkable, Nick, that literally the day of his inauguration, he filed paperwork to run for re-election so he could raise that money. In terms of the spending, it's been for some of the standard trappings of running a campaign, hiring staff, making sure that you can have a structure, but also to a lot of legal fees, things that you wouldn't necessarily associate with a political campaign, but to pay off, of course, some of the legal issues that he's having to grapple with all the various investigations that he's under. So it has set him up in a major way to be very competitive with any Democrat who's out there. Donald Trump, of course, likes to say how rich he is, so he has his own personal individual money to put onto the table if he so chooses. But it does set him up very, very well. And in a historic way, no president of the United States ever has had so much money going into the second 2 years of his first term as Donald Trump does right now.
So, Michael, in the 90 seconds we have remaining, lightning round here, the greatest three presidents in U.S. history.
I think I'd say Lincoln, Washington maybe tied, and FDR after the first two. Would you agree with that, Joe?
Yes, I would. And I want to ask you about the three worst presidents ever. We hear a lot of talk about Donald Trump, obviously. But the two that bookended Abraham Lincoln were no picnic either. So Buchanan and Johnson. Who was the worst president ever, and who would you put in your top three?
I'd say Buchanan because he did the worst thing that a president can do, which is, you know, the biggest moral and political issue of his time, slavery. He basically ignored it and kept the clock running, sort of kicked the can down the road. And the result was that 4 years later, when Lincoln became president, the slavery issue was even more acute. We went quickly to a civil war.
All right. Eddie, final thoughts this morning.
Just to remember that we are in the constitutional crisis we thought we were on our way to. We are here. The question is, what will we do? How will we respond?
All right, so we are, in fact, in a crisis, and perhaps Noble was right. Perhaps we should be far more serious about it. We'll do our best tomorrow. We will see you again on Morning Joe. Thank you so much, as always, for your patience. But right now, stick around. Chris Jansing picks up the news coverage right now.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.